Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is Steve, and I do a lot of work with volumetric lighting. I do robots, I do environments, and I really love hard surface modeling. And so today I'm using Blender 3.6, which is a new release. Unfortunately though, for all of us, the new release really doesn't have anything. It's got no teeth right now, and they've just got a couple of upgrades, so there's really nothing to it yet. So I'm over here at the Blender release page, and you can click on a couple things. It's all basically to do. They're changing something with the dope sheet, so your channels don't go off screen, and the nodes in physics is the only thing that's lit up at the moment. And it's just talking about online manual access now. And the read-only normal attribute has been removed from the spreadsheet. That's literally it. Everything else is in red. There's nothing going on. It's just like a skeleton of 3.6. But I do have to say this. While I've been using 3.6, it is smooth. They've got some of the bugs out of it from 3.5 that I just couldn't stand. Like you couldn't zoom in the geometry nodes editor. It was literally getting out of control. Like if I was to try to zoom in right here, it would lag and stop, lag and stop, lag and stop. And that is absolutely infuriating, and it's not good. And so I'm kind of playing around here with this volumetric lighting, which I absolutely love, and finally got a result I was looking for. And I'm going to show you how to do that real easy right now with a free add-on from the Blender Market. So let's get started. First thing you're going to want to do is come over to the Blender Market, blendermarket.com, and click in OCD. And I think we all have a little OCD in some way or another, but that stands for one-click damage. You can get the free light version, which is what I'm beta testing right now. It's super basic, but I found some cool things you can do with it. So let's go ahead and do it. Now, pretty simple. Just come in here and let's drop in a UV sphere. And what you're going to want to do is come down here and put this to 64 on the resolution. Then you can drop that and get rid of it. And we want to go ahead and shade this smooth. And I've actually got a multi-button mouse, and this is kind of something I recommend. I've got my quick favorites not on Q anymore, but it's on the mouse. So that way I can just pull this in. And real quick, I'll show you how to do that. If you come to Edit, go to Preferences, and let's pull the key map out. Drop down Window right here under Key Map. And then come down until you find the actual quick favorites, which is like right here, and just click on it for mouse. Okay, and then you'll have to kind of left click, hold it, and then once you're doing that, you can press a mouse button or whatever you want. Now it doesn't say save down here, so that means my auto save is on, but I'm still going to save the preferences because I'm not fully confident in the 3.6 alpha, of course. So shade it smooth, and we want this to work. And a lot of people are maybe not done this because I've seen people doing the tutorials on it. They don't do it. They don't sub it. So I want to sub this 2 times and apply it, so that way I've got some mesh to actually work with for the damage. Now this installs like any other add-on. So if I go over to the add-on menu, and the only thing I don't like about it is how it pops up. It's kind of a pain in the butt. And you'll just install it like normal. Go and install, find it in your downloads, and then activate it. OCD will be in here. You have OCD Lite version 1.3, and then once you've got that, you find it in your end panel. It's in the end panel. And so I can click Make Damage to this. Now it's going to lag a tiny little bit, not a big deal, but as you see right here, there are some. And so what you're going to get is an effect like this where you've got some holes and stuff and different various places. So set this like wherever you want. The amount is pretty important. And the scale is kind of like a randomization, right? So it's not that big of a deal. And you're going to end up with 1 or 2 open spots, possibly, or maybe some artifacts. And that's kind of a pain, but it's okay because we're going to fix that. We're not going to apply anything yet. What we can do is come down here and switch the edge angle to 30, because the angles, they kind of start out too sharp for the OCD And what we can also do to get the effect I had is go to union. This is pretty important. So now we can come down and apply this. If you're happy with it, I'll apply all this, the weighted normals, the whole thing. I'm just going to apply it. And we end up with this effect when you go into edit mode, because this is added on geometry. So what we could do is invert that selection, hit P, and separate that selection. And now guess what? We've got two separate pieces. Pretty cool. So I want to grab this piece, the inside pieces here. And what I could do is I can go ahead and solidify these and bring them out just a touch. That was a little bit more. Hold down shift when you're doing this and it works a heck of a lot better. And then click even thickness. And then we can go ahead and apply that solidify so that is real geometry. Now let's come back to the outside piece here, and you just hit G to grab and see that that's our added on geometry. It's kind of like a decimate. It's pretty cool. A delete geometry, if you will. That'd be interesting to see what the nodes look like on that. I have to check that next time. And so now what we can do is just go ahead and subsurf this outside piece. And you can bring that up to 2 as well and apply it so it is real geometry. And what that's going to do is it's going to kind of pull this in a little bit. And as you all know, and if you don't, 3D modeling effectively is fakery. Right? What the camera doesn't see, nobody knows. And you're not going to see any of this shading, period, because of the way we're going to do this. So it's completely unimportant. Now, if you have a little bit of a problem with it, the smooth corrective mod is what we're going to put on it. It will help a little bit. And I'm going to click only smooth. And then I can play around with the factor to kind of give this a procedural effect. Now, the next thing you want to do is jump over into cycles. And we left, hopefully you left the sphere in the middle. If you're one of those people that has to have it above the grid, I understand, because I hate that too. But I want it there for the point light I'm going to put in. And so now you have this effect, right? And what we can do is bring the power up pretty high for a point light rather, and put it to like 500. And apparently my volume scatter was still on. Shame on me. So this is what you should actually see. Your world was probably at 1, which is a disgusting light. So I'm going to turn that completely off. And I just want the light coming out of the middle. Now you could change the color to anything you want. I kind of always go with this icy color. Just kind of like that because I like doing like glacials and ice formations and waterfalls. So this one's always pretty appealing. All right, so the radius to this light can be changed. You could bring it all the way to 0, no problem. And if you want, you can enable shadow caustics as well and put a plane under it and get some cool effects. We might do that at the end of this. And so now you would go to world, volume scatter. When this pops in, you can leave it anywhere you want, but 0.1 is a good spot to start. And then the intensity of said light is going to be indicative of how this looks, right? So you're going to want to crank that light up to something pretty crazy. And it's a point light, so you can do a lot. And so putting this up to like 5,000 is a little high. I think I'll just go 2,500, kind of like that. And the effect here is if you bring up a timeline, this is going to be fun. Let's do this. It's taking a little bit of a different direction, which is how I'm going to do my lives at some point. I'll have a plan, but I'm going to take it whatever direction, I think is good. And if people have suggestions, consider that. We'll go through it so everybody can have some fun. So now with the point light itself, I want to be on frame 1, hover over the color and hit I. Now I can switch down to another color, but the first thing I want to do is bring this out to like 40 and then change the color to a nice deep golden orange and then hit I over the color and then move this out to say 60. You come over here and move this to possibly a purple. That actually looks really good in the volume and hit I. Then you can rinse and repeat this. I'm just going to do this up to frame 100 and then be done with it. And then kind of come back to the blue so the fade is smooth, right? So I don't want to make it too crazy. And then I'll come here and put 100 for the frame count. And now if we come over and play this, then we'll have an actual color shift. And so there's a lot else you can do with this. You can grab this piece. Well, let me just select them both if I can. Go back over here, make sure I got them both selected. There we go. And hit Control J and join these. Now what that's going to do is it's going to apply that modifier. You're not going to have the modifier anymore. So you want to make sure it works. Go back in and check. And I only have a little bit of light going through here right now because of the way I joined it. So actually I can just hit Control Z and come back to where that was. And so the other option is that I grab this and this. Whichever one is second's fine. Control P, parent, and keep transform. So now when this one rotates, the other one will follow. So I can go back to frame 1 and grab this one and insert a rotation, very easy, and go to frame 100 and hit R and Z and just do 1 full revolution, maybe 2, seems pretty good, and hit I for that rotation. All right, hitting play on this, I can see that those extra rotations are causing a little too much. I'm just going to right click down here and hit delete, and then I'll move out and I want to hit R and Z, and I'll just rotate this one time and kind of line my mouse up with the Z right there and hit I for rotation. And now we can hit play. It's a little bit slower. And we could go into the graph editor and fix that up a little bit and make it go smooth. That's another tutorial on its own. This is pretty good, so it's a good start. And so I like how that looks now. And so if we go into, say, the render properties and switch to Eevee, we can get all the Eevee selection here, and this is going to look a little bit crazier because of bloom. So we can turn on bloom, ambient, and a couple other things. Motion blur might not be good for this because it may blur everything out. So I'm not so sure we really want to use that. But definitely go in and grab the light and maybe put it to something like 50. And let's see how this ends up looking. Okay, that's actually pretty cool how the light is coming out. And we can go into the viewport settings, and hopefully your PC is pretty fast. You put that to 128, that'll clean the light up. And so you can also come to the threshold under bloom, and you see if you bring it all the way back, it's just grabbing everything. The light cutoff is not high enough to make it look good. And so right about here at 1.9 or 2 should be sufficient. And for the volume that we have in the scene, if you want it to render out a little bit nicer, come down to the volumetrics tab. And what you can do is change these samples here. 128 would be fine. And then you definitely want to decrease the tile size. You could safely go down to 8 or 4 with a slow PC. 2 is where I'm going to put it because my PC is pretty fast. And so this nice little glow around it. I don't like this. I like cycles better, but just so you have some options. And then we can enable volumetric shadows, but we don't really have anything working in our favor currently. So I'm going to put in a plane. And now I could bring this down just a touch, something like this, and we get some really cool effects on it from the lighting, which is pretty sick. Now we want to enable. Now, one thing I want to actually do is turn this into a glass mod at the end and just see what we can get. The effects I've got right now are actually pretty cool. So let's see, bring this down just a touch more. Right about there. I don't want any weird lighting. And maybe a touch more. There we go. Yep, that looks pretty good. Alright, so now what we can do is go to the object properties. And I'm going to click on our object here. And I want to go into viewport display. Scroll all the way down. Okay, that is my bad, actually, because what I'm looking for is not in Eevee, it's only in cycles. Ha ha ha. So, if we go back down to cycles and go to the object properties, and then go down to shading, because I went under visibility for some reason. Then we have our shadow caustics, and there's 10 bounces. I think you could probably squeeze more out with the newer light settings, but right now we're just going to still call it 10 bounces. So I'll select this object. I want it to cast shadow caustics, and I want this one to cast shadow caustics, and I want the plane to receive shadow caustics. Then I'm going to go to the world properties, and we should be able to go under... Alright, completely brain dead today, so under settings and surface on the world properties will enable shadow caustics as well. I just know you got to enable it for all of these different things, and I don't play around with it as much. Now we've got the point light here, and we have to enable shadow caustics for that as well. And then I'm going to crank this up, and I don't like that color. Let's bring it back over here. I really dig this. This is like a fake caustic setup. It's pretty cool, actually. I'm going to render that out later. Now, in order to get this to do what I'm going to have to add a material. I'll click New, I'll go to Surface, I'll click Mix Shader. I'm going to get a very basic setup. I'll go to the first shader, and I'll get a glass BSDF, which splatters this quite amazing look. And then for the second shader, I want a transparent, not translucent. Don't select it by accident. And now for the roughness, you could change that if you want to change it a little bit. 0.08 actually is the Blender recommendation in the manual for a glass transparency with this setup. However, everyone does go to 1.33333333. I'm sick of hearing it. But if you want, you can adjust these any way you want. You are not wrong. So now this is pretty darn cool. You can see what we've got is like this disco ball. It's pretty nice. And so I'm actually going to render this out, and I'm going to go to my render resolution here, and I want to hit it 4K. And I want to come back up here and go to CPU, all right, which is going to bring up, and 25 samples is more than enough because I've got a lot of volume and a lot of other stuff in here. It's going to take forever. So path guiding, 128 samples. I'm just going to put it to 12. Probably isn't going to mean as much, but it's fine. I don't care. We're just going to go with it. And I've got the light tree. And so you can pick a color, position, whatever you want, and you can render that out the way you see it. I'm actually going to go with the light blue because that's kind of like my favorite color anyways. Come back over here, so I'm not using all that extra viewport up. And now I want to go ahead and render this image. And there's no camera. I always delete everything, don't you? Okay, so camera, Control-Alt-0. And we know we don't want to like have something dead center. Let's go to the camera, drop down camera, bring this to 48. And I'm actually going to rotate this plane to match the camera. Scale it on the X, apply the scale, jump into edit mode, grab that back edge, E and Z to extrude it, A for all. Since I'm in edge mode, I can hit Control B, and now I can bevel this and add a bunch of bevels. Something like 20 should be good. I'll put 20, and we can maybe harden the normals. Never actually hardened the normals on a plane before. And that's good. Shade it smooth. Auto smooth it, and now I should be able to go ahead and render that out. Alright, so for some reason my render screen likes to pop up out of focus, like out of the screen. You can't select it, so it looks really funky when it comes up, and it's very difficult to get back down, so I hope you appreciate it. Anyways, this is the look so far. I don't have a material or a transparency on this, which is producing some really incredible shadow caustics. I'll come back when this is done, show you the final, and then that's it. I really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to smash that subscribe, smash that like, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.